listening to, I say you are listening to, you are absolutely listening to the George Espinlove Show, coming to you live from the Funny Farm. Now, with no further ado, here comes Georgie!
Thank you, thank you. You are just so kind. Thank you. You still have enthusiasm, even after the storm. We are delighted. We are delighted to be here tonight. Excuse me. And we have a special guest with us tonight, a fellow by the name of Dave Moore, but we'll get to him in just a second. We're trying out some new equipment here. So if things get a little squirrely, you will know that we're experimenting. So bear with us. But let's get started. To you that's down the street, around the corner, across this nation, and around the world, you have just tuned in to the George Espinlove Show, coming to you live from the Funny Farm, and we're still above water. A lot of debris, but we're still above water. The lights are on, the internet service is up, and we're ready to have a great show tonight. I figured you'd like that. We want to, excuse me, we want to introduce our guest to you now, and his name is Dave Moore, and he is in Michigan. I'm not even going to say that name of that town where you're from, Dave, but welcome to the George Espinlove Show.
Thank you, George. It's great to be here, and the name of that town is Ypsilanti.
Yep.
It's a little tough.
Ypsilanti. I got you.
Yes.
I might say it right one time. After that, it'll be done.
Right.
You wrote a book, and it's called The Father's Love. Amid a frantic search for his son, a father finds his faith. I enjoyed it. Once I sat down and opened it up, I didn't get up until I closed it up. I found it very, very interesting. Give us a little bit of your background and tell us where you're from and all those good things.
Well, I've lived most of my life right here in Ypsilanti, Michigan. I'd say just like a normal kid growing up, loved sports, loved hunting here in Michigan, which is a great place to do that. But then as a young adult, I got into more of the things of the world, drinking, partying, and I personally, for me, I was an angry drunk, so I got into a lot of fights, a lot of trouble, and then one day, through a relationship that I had, I found that the girl was pregnant, and I had a son on the way. So I became a little more responsible, cut down on some of the things that I did, and the relationship with the lady didn't work out. But I had a son, and I took custody of my son when he was 1.5. And so then a few years later, after raising my son by myself, I met a wonderful young lady, and her name is Dorinda, and I ended up marrying her. And she was a young lady who had been raised in church. Her father had been a pastor for many years. He had then become a national evangelist, and I had actually promised him when I asked for his daughter's hand in marriage, I promised him that I'd get her back in church. But I guess that wasn't really something I really planned to do. It was just something I said. And, it was something he asked and I agreed to, but I didn't really mean it. I hadn't been raised in church, so I didn't really even understand having a relationship with God at that time. So I did say that, but I didn't mean it. And so over the years, him being a national evangelist, he would come into town, and maybe for a revival or something. And so we would go to church when he came to town. But really, other than that, we never did go to church. I never really did get his daughter back in church like I had planned.
This is a little, maybe a little sidetracked, but when I was reading the book, is now your wife's dad is a national evangelist.
Yes.
And there's other members of her family that's in the ministry also, isn't there? It seemed like everyone was.
Yes, really they were. My wife's sister married a pastor, and so they have a church, they're a ministry. Her brother, Ed, is a pastor, and he has a church of his own. And then, of course, like I said, the father, my father-in-law, G.J. Chandler, he's not actually a national evangelist anymore. He's in his mid-80s, but he's still very spry, and he still speaks at churches. And he's actually a district overseer in the state of Alabama. So, yes, the whole family very much into the ministry. So
your wife was a PK.
She was a PK, yes, a preacher's kid. She sure was.
A preacher's kid, yeah. I'm glad you said that, because probably the majority of our audience doesn't know what a PK is, preacher's
right.
kid.
Yes.
And
yep.
sometimes that is the worst position to be in, to be a preacher's kid.
Yes, from the stories I've heard, yes, it can be a very difficult childhood to grow up in.
Yeah, you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place when you're a PK. So
yeah.
you don't got too much going for you.
Absolutely.
Your life was, I guess, going along all right. At least.
Yeah, I guess you could say I was muddling along through life. I had a job, a very hard job, worked in a warehouse, very physical. And looking back, I can see that I was a very difficult father to my son and to my two stepsons, actually. I was a my way or the highway type of father, which that was how I was raised. And, just having been a difficult, a difficult person to be around even before I was a father, I think I just became that type of a father. Though we gave our children everything, I'd say that I was a hard father to grow up under.
I think one of the, and I'll just throw this in here real quick, I think one of the greatest parables in the whole New Testament is the one about the prodigal son.
Yes.
And I think that is one that is relived over and over, regardless whether you're red, yellow, black, or white, from here, there, or anywhere. And when you said it was your way or the highway, and that's the way you was raised. Most of us were raised like that. This is my house. You're under my roof. You're going to do what I say, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
And
not only was it that way, but it was even worse than that, because I was an angry person. I was a loud person. So I was not a calm father. I was a very loud and, not just my way or the highway type of thing, but very loud when I would express that. And I'm sure that I put the fear into my son and my stepsons. And I look back now and I really regret that.
Did you, during this time, now your wife being raised in church, her daddy being a preacher, did she, was she still, what's the word, was she still active in the church?
No.
No?
No. though I'd made the promise to get her back in church, I hadn't followed through with that. So no, she never went. The only time, like I said before, we would go is if her father was in town. We might go to a revival he was having. If it was somewhere in the area, we would go. But believe me, I complained the whole way. I went to church, but I went kicking and screaming. If you should put it that way, I guess that's how it was.
Unfortunately, I know exactly what you mean. So you were, let me rephrase what I said earlier. So you were bumping along in life, and your son was going to, Eastern Michigan?
Yes. He was a freshman.
And then all of a sudden, and I guess this just came out of nowhere, right?
Yes, it really did. It was the 1st of December. We were planning Christmas. My son, like I said, was a freshman in college. He was driving a Mustang. He had a campus job. He had a girlfriend. And I would ask him regularly how school was going, and he would tell me that it was going fine. And then one day we came home from work on a Friday afternoon, and I came home first, and then my wife came home a few hours later, and when she she noticed one of my son's yearbooks was on the computer desk, and she went to replace it in his room, and when she did, she found a letter on his bed, and the letter would just go on to tell us how he was flunking out of college and he couldn't face us with this failure of his, and that every bird needs to leave the nest sometime, and his time was now, and his car would be parked at the Greyhound bus station in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which was around a 20-minute drive from where we were at. So we just hurriedly drove to that bus station, very fast. I was running red lights, stop signs, everything. I was just in a panic. And when we got there, the bus station had just closed. We got there around 6:30. The bus station closed at 6. So we circled the streets, and a few streets over, we found his car. So we knew that he had gotten on a bus, and we had no idea where that bus was headed. But we also knew that wherever he got off of that bus, because we knew he didn't have any money, that he'd get off that bus and he'd be broke and he'd be homeless.
Did you have any idea this was coming?
No, none at all. Like I said, we were planning Christmas. We had no clue. As far as we knew, everything was right with the world. Nothing at all. There had been no fights, no arguments, or nothing at all. We had no clue it was coming at all.
Was he one to get in trouble, or?
No, he really wasn't. He was always a good kid. He had always gotten good grades for the most part. When he was in junior high, he kind of got caught up in the fact that people thought he was so smart, and he felt, they would call him an egghead. He was so smart. So for a while, he got away from doing good in school just because of that. But he realized his mistake after his freshman or sophomore year in high school, and he really excelled again. So he was always a good student. Never in trouble, never drinking or drugs or anything like that. Very good athlete. He was a high school quarterback, good pitcher in the baseball team, and he was just looked like just nothing but success in his future.
Now, when you said that you you raised the boys rather hard,
yeah.
What was he able to come and talk to you about anything, or was he somewhat afraid?
Looking back, I think that was the number one factor in his running, was that he was flunking out and he couldn't come to me. He felt that if he came to me, I would blow up. I put such an importance, probably such a pressure on him to excel, and he felt that he could not come to me with this because I would just blow my stack. And he just finally came to a point where, it was the first part of December. Grades would be coming out in a few weeks. He felt like he couldn't turn it around. He couldn't face me, and he just felt like he had run out of options, and there was nothing left for him to do but just run, and that's what he did.
So when you found out that he had left and went to the bus station, excuse me, when was you able to find out where he went?
Well, the first thing we did was I had a spare set of car keys on my key ring, and so we took his car, and my wife drove our car, and I drove his car home. When we got his car home, we just stood there together, the two of us, and just cried because we were lost. We didn't know, what to do. At first, we were just in shock, and so we just stood together and cried. And our son was gone, and we didn't know where. So we went in the house and we began to we pulled our Rolodex out, and we just started calling people on the phone. We started calling all his friends whose numbers we had, and we called his girlfriend. And initially we didn't get a hold of her, so we left a message. And we started calling family and friends, and just calling everybody that might have any idea at all, somebody he might have talked to and confided in or anything. And nobody knew anything. As a matter of fact, everyone at first thought this was some kind of a prank that someone was pulling on them. They didn't believe it because no one expected him to do anything like this. After about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, his girlfriend called back from the message we had left her, and she was shocked too. She couldn't believe it, but she said that she remembered him mentioning the city of Dayton, Ohio, which was about a 3.5-hour drive south from where we were at. And so now, having gotten at least some type of a clue, we didn't know that he had went there, but that was the only clue I had. And so I just hurriedly took my truck and drove to the gas station, filled it up with gas, stopped at the bank and got more money. Even though I'd gotten paid that day, I stopped at the bank and got more money out of the bank, and I just headed for Dayton, Ohio. It was around 9:30 at night, and by now we'd been calling for a few hours, and I just left. I headed for Dayton.
And by this time, your mind is racing almost out of control, right?
Oh, absolutely out of control. Yes, just in chaos. If he's so desperate to run like this, is he desperate enough to hurt himself? Blaming myself. I pushed him too hard, and just in chaos, just like that. Yeah, nothing. Is he okay? Where's he going? Just you can't imagine how terrible it is.
I was going to ask you when I was reading the book, I got the sense that when this all went down, you immediately started looking deep within yourself, and you were banging on yourself, saying that this is why he's going, because of me, and so on and so forth. And so it tore you up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it woke you up. I mean, we could say that now that this whole thing's over with. It tore you up, but yet it woke you up, and thank God that it turned out all for the good. When you go ahead.
No, you go ahead. It's okay.
When you was heading for Dayton, is that when, or was it when you went to Atlanta that you stopped at your friend's house?
Yeah, it was on the way to Atlanta after leaving Dayton that I stopped in Lexington, Kentucky, and picked my friend up.
Okay, so you headed for Dayton.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any idea where you were going?
No. I just, I knew where Dayton was at, and that was it. I thought that I would try to get to Dayton and get to the bus station as fast as I could, and maybe that he would be at the bus station or in the area of the bus station. So yeah, that was my thinking, is just get there as fast as I can, and then I'll figure it out from there. So I did, speeding, trying to get there, and definitely not recommending that anyone ever do that. But under the pressure I was under, I wasn't even thinking about that. I just had to get there as fast as I could get there. About halfway there, my wife called me on my cell. Thank God that I had a cell with me at that time, because I would have probably really lost my mind if I wasn't able to stay in contact with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
But her and my son's girlfriend, Ashley, had been going through my son David's room and looking for any clue to maybe what he was wearing, what he might have taken with him. And they came up, my wife had come up with a pretty good idea of what he was wearing by what was missing. And a few of his bags were gone, so she could tell that he had taken a few bags full, of probably of clothes. But they went through his trash can in his room, and they found a piece of paper with an address on it. And the address was an address in Dayton, Ohio. And so they looked that up on the internet, and they found out that address was to a homeless shelter in Dayton. So when they called me, like I said, I was about halfway to Dayton at the time. I'm thinking that absolutely has to be where he's going, because we knew he didn't have any money. We knew that he didn't even have much to have purchased the bus ticket. So knowing that wherever he got off that bus, he'd be pretty much broke, then that must be where he's at. He has to be in that homeless shelter. So right as I got to Dayton, I was pulling into the outskirts of Dayton. There was a small accident on the side of the road, and there was a police car there. So I pulled over. And I got out, I went over and I talked to the policeman, told him what I was doing. He told me as soon as he would finish with what he was doing, he would actually take me to that bus station. And so about 10 minutes later, he finished, and he drove me to the bus station. We got there about 12:30 in the morning, and the bus station had just closed again 30 minutes earlier. It closed at midnight. So there was nobody in sight, nobody around. So I gave him the address to the homeless shelter, and it was actually straight down the road from the bus station. It was about probably a quarter mile up the road, straight down the road. And so that's where we went. We went to the bus station and rang the buzzer. I told the man on the other side of the buzzer who I was and what I was doing. He asked me the age of my son. I told him 18. And he said that if your son's 18, I can't tell you if he's in here or not. He said, the only thing I can tell you is if he's in here, that we make everyone leave at 7 in the morning. So if your son's in here, he'll come out then. So I decided I'll just wait outside. So I did. I waited outside till 7 in the morning, and he wasn't in there.
I guess we need to tell the people, excuse me, that the name of the book is The Father's Love. And where can they get this, Dave?
Well, it's you can order it through my website, www.thefatherslovebook.com, and it's also available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Most of your big online bookstores, it's available. It's available in many Christian bookstores and other bookstores also. And if it's not, you can always order it from there. But yeah, I have a lot of information on my website: author information, book excerpts, a video trailer, and you can connect on the Facebook fan page there too. So that's the fatherslovebook.com.
Yeah, and do yourself a real favor. Get this. Find you a comfortable place to sit down or lay down and read it, because once you open it up, you won't get up until you reach the very end. And it's one of those books that is an easy read. It's a good read, but it's one of those reads that when you get to the end, you think, man, there's just certain books, and I'm glad the way it turned out, Dave. Don't take this wrong. There's just certain books that you think, boy, I wish that would have went a little bit longer. You know what I'm saying? That's how good it was to me.
Yeah.
Sitting outside that homeless shelter during the night had to be excruciating to you.
Oh, it was the worst thing to just think my son was inside there, and there was a hope there, but still it was just like you said, it was just excruciating. And then every once in a while, I started around 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and every once in a while I would see someone walking down the road, like maybe 200 or 300 yards down the road. I would see people, and so I would hurriedly drive down there and check maybe that's him. So I would drive down there real fast, and it never was him. But each time I would go and I would turn back around through that bus station, and I would come back. And this would happen several times during the night. I'd see somebody walking. I'd hurriedly drive down there. It wasn't him. I'd cut back through the bus station and turn around and come back to the homeless shelter. The funny thing is that each time I would go through that bus station, in the back of the bus station where I would always cut through and turn around, there was this really large box back there. And I would always see this box, and I kept thinking to myself, well, there's no way that my son would be in that box. There's just no way. But that thought kept staying with me each time I'd drive through there and I'd see that box. So finally, around 6:30 in the morning, I saw someone walking, and I drove down there. It wasn't him again. I cut through that bus station, and I saw that box. And I just thought to myself, I have to know. So I pointed my headlights on the box, and I got out, and I walked over to the box, and I lifted the lid off of that box. And it was dark inside of the box, and my eyes just slowly began to focus, and I could see that there was somebody inside of that box. And so I said, Dave. I just shouted my son's name, Dave. And slowly there was movement, and a head looked up at me. And there was a man inside of there, an older gentleman, probably in his 60s, I'd say. And it looked like he had several layers of clothes on because it was only 10 degrees out there that night. It was very cold. And he looked at me with these sad eyes, and he just said, no. I had said, Dave, and he just looked at me and said, no. And it was just this moment of just unbelief that, no, it wasn't my son in there, but this poor man was inside of that box. It was just devastating. And as I walked back to my truck, I just became overwhelmed and thinking not only of my son could have been in that position, but this person is. And I just fell down on my knees and just cried. It was just such a heart-wrenching moment. And then I just got back in my truck and headed back to the homeless shelter to wait till 7 o'clock.
And when 7 o'clock came,
then all the people in the homeless shelter started coming out of the shelter, and I got out of my truck and I started talking to them as they were coming out, asking them if they'd seen my son, describing him to them. No one had. Excuse me. And then after a few minutes, nobody was coming out anymore, so I walked over to the door, and I knocked on the door, and the man that ran the shelter came to the door, and he told me that everyone had left, and there was nobody left inside. So my son was not in there. I'd sat outside of that homeless shelter all night long, and he wasn't there.
Hindsight is 20/20.
Mm-hmm.
And now when you look back at this whole ordeal, I suppose that you can see God's hand moving even in the darkest situation.
Yes, absolutely. Now, looking back, for sure. Even the fact that as I began to talk with these homeless people, first off, they told me that there was a day shelter a few blocks over, and that's where they were going. And they told me to come there with them, and that if my son was in the town anywhere, he'd have to come there because it was so cold. So I did. I followed them over to the shelter. And before that, though, I offered them money because I had all this money on me that I'd taken out of the bank, my paycheck. And so I offered to give them money for helping me, and they wouldn't take it. And so then I just followed them over to the shelter. And when I went into the shelter there, first we waited in line to get in. But when I went into the shelter, I searched through the whole shelter because there was probably 100 people in this day shelter now. But then the people, this girl and this guy that had been helping me, from the time they came out of the shelter, they went and got me a sandwich. They went and got me coffee. The man went and plugged my cell phone in with me because all I had was a home charger. So he plugged my cell phone in for me. And again, I tried to give them money, and they wouldn't take it. Here they were homeless and without money, and all they really wanted to do was help me. They didn't want my money. They wanted to help me. And not even necessarily help me find my son, but just help me, in the moment I was in. So yeah, it was just an amazing thing to be a part of feeling their caring for me like that. It was amazing.
And so deep inside that old hard, crusty shell was slowly beginning to break.
Yes, I believe that. Yes.
You had no luck in Dayton.
Well, no. As a matter of fact, I knew the bus station was going to open at 9 o'clock, so I stayed in that shelter until about a quarter till 9, and then I headed back to the bus station because I thought maybe I can get some information there when they open at 9 o'clock. So I did that. At 9 o'clock, I went there, and I stood in line behind a few people. And when I got to the counter, I talked to this young man, and he told me, I told him what I was looking for, and he told me to come around the counter. He said he would help me back there because he didn't want this to be involved with any of the other customers, and so he took me behind the counter, and he walked over to a computer. He asked me my son's name and asked me where he'd gotten on the bus at, so he typed all of this in. And when he finished, he looked over at me, and he said, your son's ticket was purchased to Atlanta, Georgia. So I had stayed in Dayton all night long, and my son's ticket had went to Atlanta, which was probably another 8 to 10 hours from where I was at. So at that moment, it was just everything, the weight of everything that had happened already, and the thought of going to Atlanta after spending, being up all night long, having worked the day before, and been up all night long, and my legs just began to shake. I started to fall, and I just kind of fell against the wall, and he kind of grabbed me and helped me and slid me down to the ground, and it was just another. Really a devastating moment to think that now my son could be another 8 to 10 hours away, and in Atlanta, which is just such a huge city.
So the search was spreading out, and you knew it was going to be even more difficult.
Yeah. Absolutely. Initially, my thought was, "There's no way I can make it." So I called my wife. And we talked about it, and she felt the same way. There's no way that I could make it there. So she said, "Why don't you come home and we'll, together we'll go back to Atlanta." So that's what I did. I decided I'd go back to Michigan, and I headed north, and I had driven only about a mile, and I just thought to myself, "There's no way. My son is in the other direction. There's no way I can go home." So I just turned around, and I started heading south toward Atlanta, not thinking that I could make it, not knowing how I would. But I just knew I had to go. If my son was there, that's where I had to go. So I did. I just headed south towards Atlanta.
And that's when you stopped at your friends in, Lexington, Kentucky?
Yes, Lexington, Kentucky. Yeah. Initially, though, I hadn't thought about my friend Larry. But as I was driving, I just started becoming overwhelmed again, that this was all my fault, that, maybe I'd never see my son again. And I was just my mind was in chaos, and so somewhere inside of me, I had made up my mind that because this was all my fault, and it was such a terrible thing, that the only way out of this was for me to kill myself. And so I made up my mind, and I was just going to drive my truck into a bridge on the highway. And so I just started looking at the bridges, and I saw a bridge probably about a quarter mile, half a mile away, and I had decided that's the bridge that I'm going to run into. And so I sped my truck up. I probably got up close to 100 miles an hour. I saw the bridge. I was probably just a few hundred yards away now, and I was ready to do it. And then this thought came into my mind, and it was, what if your son's okay? What will this do to him? And just tears just flowing down my eyes now. So much tears in my eye, I could hardly see the drive. I just pulled over to the side, and I just wept for probably 5 good minutes, and decided that, this wasn't the way out, that I had to find my son. So I got back on the road, and right when I got back on the road, I remembered my friend. I had probably my best friend in the whole world lived in Lexington, Kentucky, which was just up the road from where I was at. And so I called him on the phone, and Larry, and he told me he was sitting right next to the phone. He said, "Come and pick me up. I'm going with you to Atlanta." So I went and picked Larry up, and we headed to Atlanta together, and that for sure, that saved my life. Because first off, I was in such a terrible state, but there's no way I probably could have drove and made it.
Excuse me, one of the things that I can remember ever since I was a kid was the story of the potter and the clay.
Mm-hmm.
And that has never left me. And while you was talking,
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting here thinking and picturing
Mm-hmm.
if there was ever an example of the potter taking the clay and whatever it was, tearing it apart and beginning to mold and make it all over again, you are the perfect example of the potter reworking the clay, don't you think?
You know, and I'd never thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right. There's a very good analogy. Absolutely. Yes.
Your trip to Atlanta wasn't successful.
No. After arriving in Atlanta, talking first to the people that work in the bus station, and then having detectives from the Atlanta Police Department come down there and talk to us, them giving us lists of shelters. Larry and I walked the streets. We searched under bridges, in more boxes that homeless people were living in, shelter after shelter, walking all night long. I was giving money to everybody on the streets. I was giving money homeless people under the bridges. Everywhere I went, I was just handing money out to people. And I kept telling them, I kept showing them the wad of money I had, and I kept telling them, if you find my son, then I'll give you the rest of this money. And but nothing, no clue. Even the police department had told us originally that it was like looking for a needle in a haystack, and they were right, because there were hundreds of homeless people everywhere we went. There was people everywhere, and it was kind of shocking. I guess I'd never really been a part of that or seen those things before, but yeah, they were everywhere, but my son was nowhere. And so we began to think about what they said about being a needle in a haystack. And then thinking that, on that bus trip from Michigan to Atlanta, he could have gotten off at any one of dozens of stops that bus made. Or he could have gotten off the bus in Atlanta and started hitchhiking to Florida. So eventually we realized, since there was no clues, there was nothing, to go on, we realized that we probably should take the Atlanta Police's advice and go back to Michigan and file a missing police report there and begin the search there with the help of those police departments. So that's what I decided finally early in the morning, after walking the street for countless hours. We decided for me to take Larry back to Lexington and go back to Michigan and begin the search from there. So that's what I did.
Ladies and gentlemen, thefatherslovebook.com. Is that it, Dave? Thefatherslovebook.com?
Yes, it is.
And the book is The Father's Love by Dave Moore. It's intriguing. Simple, but so true. And you can hear his heartbeat. That's what makes the difference. You can hear his heartbeat. When you, I know what I wanted to ask you. There's probably, I don't know. Only God would know, but there's countless numbers of 18-year-old males and females that just up and leave home every day. Some under good circumstances, some under not so good circumstances, but nonetheless, they leave.
Yes.
But when he left, it affected you. Not every dad, when their 18-year-old son leaves, goes after him or looks for him like you did. This really went down deep inside the marrow of your soul, didn't it?
Yes, it really did. I mentioned earlier how I had raised my son for probably about 5 years by myself. So we were very close. I felt such a closeness with my son, even though, like I said, I probably was the my way or the highway dad. I still felt so close, and I loved my son so much. And I never was close with my father like that. But the day my son was born, and the first time he looked at me with those eyes, I was a changed person. And people would tell me when I was a single father what a special person I was. to raise my son by myself like that. I never saw it as special. I saw it as, something I really wanted to do. I mean, I couldn't imagine not wanting to raise my son. He's a part of me, and he's just this wonderful bundle of joy. When he was that little boy, and I mean, it just completely changed me when my son was born. So yeah, when he left, I mean, to me, he was still that young boy, that baby boy.
Uh-huh.
And he might have been 18 years old, but as a father, I think as a mother or a father, they're still that little child to you. And so yeah, it was devastating, when he left.
So all the way back home, and your body had to be tore up. Your mind was out of control. Your nerves were racked, and you had to go all the way back to Michigan.
Yeah.
Did you ever think that you wasn't going to make it back? I mean, you didn't have much to eat, hardly any sleep. I mean, you were just shot.
No, my mind was on all the other things. What to do next. But I would bounce back and forth. The guilt I was feeling. What would I do when I get home? How am I going to find him? And so I would, ideas kept coming as I was, thinking on this drive. And Larry was with me till Lexington. Then, from Lexington back to Michigan was about another 5 hours. So then it was that last 5 hours by myself that was really the hardest. So yeah, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Didn't even want to drink anything because my stomach was just in knots, tied in knots. Wondering if I was ever going to see my son again.
You mentioned the word guilt, Dave. There are countless millions of people that live with guilt.
Yes.
And it's a monster. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a Pac-Man that's on the inside just eating and eating
Mm-hmm.
and eating away.
Absolutely.
They can't forget the past. They can't forgive
Mm-hmm.
what happened in the past. What do you tell people?
That first off, you have to forgive yourself, and then after that, you can always go to someone that you feel guilty that maybe you've done something, or you need to ask them to forgive you. You can always go to them, and because when you're carrying that guilt or you're carrying that anger even towards somebody else, really the only person that's hurting is you. That's not hurting that other person.
Mm-hmm.
But you can go to them, whether they accept that apology or whatever. It doesn't make any difference. If you make the effort, if you go to them and you ask them to forgive you, then you've done your part. You've asked them to forgive you, and you can release that. And it's just really something that you have to take that first step. And once you take that first step, then you can continue taking more steps, and you can get past those things.
So on your way back to Michigan, you were working out a plan: go home, file a missing persons report, contact this person, that person. When you got home, how long did it take you to get home?
Well, when I took Larry home, initially the plan was to lay down at his house and try to sleep a few hours. His wife was very kind and made me a dinner, and so I tried to eat, but I couldn't. I took a couple of bites and I couldn't eat. Then I tried to lay down, and I think I would sleep maybe for 5 minutes and wake back up, and it was just like even in my sleep I was just being tormented. So I think I laid there maybe an hour or two at the most. And I finally just said, I can't do this. And I got up and I woke them up because they had went to sleep. I woke them up and I told them I was leaving. I couldn't sleep. So I got up and I headed back to Michigan then, basically still without any sleep. And then I got home and then we began the search together there because my wife and my son's girlfriend, Ashley, they had been home this whole time and they'd been doing everything they could from there. They'd been contacting, people, continuing to call people. They had gotten on the internet under my son's name, under his account, and they began to talk to people on the internet that he had talked with, and tried to explain what was going on and just glean any information they could from anybody they could. So now I was home. Once I got home, I was home, and the three of us together began trying to put our thoughts together and doing what we could, now, three of us together.
And family and friends had no idea. Excuse me. I mean, this was totally uncharacteristic of your son.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, and family, family started offering to help, but I mean, they didn't know how to help.
Mm-hmm.
And friends and neighbors even, and they kept trying. And what I would find out later, well, before this, actually before I got home, I would find out my wife had told me that her father, who was a national evangelist at that time,
mm-hmm.
and he had actually was in a revival at that time. And so at that revival, all that church began to pray. And then my brother-in-laws, who were both pastors, their churches began to pray. And then they started something that they called a prayer chain, which to me, I had no idea what that was. But this prayer chain began calling other churches and other people. And I would find out that eventually this prayer chain would stretch all the way across America. And all these people who didn't even know us were praying for us. And they were asking God to move mountains, if necessary, to bring my son home safely. And so I would find this out, and at the time, not really understanding it, but realizing now what a powerful thing that is when people come together like that and pray.
Were you starting to feel, when you started to realize that, the power of prayer and the amount of people, excuse me, and the amount of people that was praying across the nation, was you starting to feel somewhat small, like a little microscopic speck in this great big universe?
I think, probably, the combination of everything. I had always been somebody that could solve every problem,
mm-hmm.
whatever it took, whether it was money or whether it was, I was young and strong, I could handle things that way. But I began to start feeling that this wasn't, I wasn't able to do this time. It was coming, it was becoming a reality that I couldn't fix this. And I began, after I got home, we began to do, we had the state police crime lab go through our computer, try to find out if somebody had lured him away.
Mm-hmm.
We filed the missing police report. I went up to his campus, Eastern Michigan University, and stood in front of his classes and talked to each one of his classes and told the students, what had happened and maybe somebody there knew something. And so, we just kept doing everything we could think to do. But, eventually we're coming, we're just getting nothing. There's no clues. The crime lab's finding nothing on the computer. And so, feeling smaller and smaller all the time, yes. And, and coming to a point where I feel like I can't solve this problem.
When was the moment, that I know you were, I think you said you were sitting in your living room or in your kitchen and you picked the Bible up.
Well, what had happened was, this was day 5 now,
mm-hmm.
and I had become so desperate that a guy that I worked with had talked to me a few times in the past about visiting a psychic. His brother had died. He was devastated by that, and he had visited a psychic to try to get some help, to reach his brother or, to something. And that's how desperate he was. And so I called him and asked him about that. And so he gave me the phone number. So I was that desperate. I finally had done so much, everything that I could think to do. There was nothing, not one clue to finding my son. And so I did. I made this appointment with this psychic. And it was something I didn't even believe in. But I made the appointment. I was that desperate. And like I said, it was the 5th day. And I've been calling shelters, and I've actually been to his campus again. I've been calling shelters, which is something we did every day. And it was coming close to the time that I was getting ready to go out the door for the psychic appointment. And just before I walked out the door, something told me to go back to the table in my kitchen where the list of shelters was at and call one more name. And I didn't understand it, but it just felt I needed to call one more name on the list. So I walked back to the table, and I picked up the lists, and we'd been crossing them out as we went. And the next name on the list was the Atlanta Church of God, and that was the next shelter. So I called that shelter, and a lady named Paige answered the phone. And so I began to tell Paige, what I was doing. I was searching for my son, and for some reason I really felt like going deeper this time. And I just started from the very beginning, and I told her how I'd been to Dayton, how I'd been to Atlanta, how I'd come back home, and everything we've been doing with the police departments. And, I was telling her everything I could think to tell her. And, I was crying on my end of the phone. She was crying on her end of the phone. And then when I finished, Paige just said to me, she said, "Sir," she said, "I don't know you." She said, "But if you come back to Atlanta looking for your son, you come straight to this church first." She said, "You can stay with us. We'll feed you. We'll give you a car, and we'll put somebody in the car with you that knows the streets of Atlanta. And if your son's here, we'll find him." And so I just hung the phone up, just tears streaming down my face. And something this Christian lady that she didn't even know me, but the things she had said just touched me so deeply that, she just wanted to help me. Again, she just this Christian lady wanted to help me. And I looked in front of me on the table, and there was a Bible sitting there on the table, right in the middle of the table. And like I said earlier, my wife was raised in church, but I wasn't. But I saw that Bible, and I just reached down and I picked it up. And I lifted it in the air, and I pointed it towards heaven. And I said, "God," I said, "I want to be just like this lady." I said, "I always want to be part of the solution, never part of the problem again." I said, "If you'll save my son, I'll serve you for the rest of my life. I'll never leave you. I'll always be part of the solution, never part of the problem again." And I set that Bible down on the table, and instantly that phone rang, and my son was home. And I just fell down on my knees on the floor, and I just threw my hands up in the air, and I just began thanking God and praising God, not really even understanding what I was doing. And I was just totally, I think right there at that time, I got delivered from the old me who I used to be. I had a pack of cigarettes in my pocket. I pulled them out. I tore them up. I threw them in the trash. And I told God, I said, "Never again will I touch one of those things." And I just began shouting. My wife came running in the room, and she realized what was going on, and she began to shout. And I believe right there, I just was transported from walking in the dark to walking in the light. My son had come home. My son, who was lost, had come home.
Mm. How did he come home?
He had just gotten off a bus in Ann Arbor, Michigan, the same bus station he had left on, and he had walked to his friend's apartment, and his friend Ross, who was one of the ones that we'd been calling over and over. When my son went into the bathroom, Ross called me right then. As soon as I made that declaration to God, he called right then. And his first thing when I said hello, he said, "Dave." He said, "Dave, little Dave is home." And right there, it was like God just answered my prayer and gave me that miracle. And I would find out later that all that money that I was handing out on the streets of Atlanta, my son was on those streets. And someone came up to him on the streets and asked him and said, "Is your dad driving a red Blazer?" Another homeless person came up to my son and said that. And my son looked at him with these big eyes and said, "Yes, how did you know that?" And he said, your dad is handing out money to people all over these streets to find you." And he knew then that he could come home. And so he didn't have any money, but he begged money on the streets of Atlanta, and he got enough money up to buy a bus ticket again, and he bought a bus ticket home and came home. And he was home right at that instant when I cried out to God. When I surrendered my will for God's will, that's when God answered that prayer.
Marvelous, miraculous. I don't know if there's any words to describe.
No.
What took place? What year did this happen, Dave?
This happened in 2002. My son had graduated that spring from high school, and it was the December of 2002. And so this December is the 10-year anniversary of not only that my son disappeared and came home, but that I got saved.
And 10 years,
Yes.
where is young Dave at now?
He has just graduated from Lee College in Cleveland, Tennessee, with a bachelor's degree in church leadership. He's working at a church in Lakeland, Florida, Abundant Life Church of God. He took his ordained minister's test this past summer, and he passed it with flying colors. So now he's an ordained minister, living in Lakeland, Florida, at Abundant Life Church of God.
And it's been 10 years. What have you been up to?
Well, I became a chaplain shortly after that. Like 2 years later, I became a chaplain. My wife, she came back to church and she rededicated her life to God, and she's been dancing in the dance ministry. She helps me with visitation. I do visitation at hospitals, nursing homes, prisons, jails. So, see, God not only saved my son like I asked him, but he did exceedingly abundantly more than I asked him. See, because he saved me, he saved my wife, he saved my son, and he put us all three in ministry.
Did you ever, in your wildest imagination, say 20 years ago, 25 years ago, think that you would be where you are today?
No, and believe me, nobody else believed that either.
I understand. Trust me, I do. I understand.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that people at first thought that this would pass. They knew what I'd been through, and they thought, well, this will pass. But you know what? Jesus Christ is real, and when you accept Him as your Savior, you're changed forever. So this isn't just going to pass. This is forever.
Yeah, I think I think there are a lot of people that stand off on the sidelines with that philosophy. This won't last. This is just a phase that someone's going through. And,
right.
And I think the longer they watch and the more they see,
yes,
the more they're convinced that it's real.
Right. And we're overcomers by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So that life we continue to live after that is our testimony. We let Jesus' light shine through us wherever we go. One of the first amazing things that happened after this finished was 2 days later when I went back to work. And like I said earlier, I was an angry person. I was a person that would fight at the drop of a dime. And there were 4 guys at my work who I had just basically begged to meet me somewhere after work at different times because I wanted to fight with them. I was so angry at these 4 people. And the first day I went back to work, which was 2 days later after my son came home, I waited at the time clock for all 4 of them. And one by one, I walked up to them and asked them to forgive me. I said, whatever you do, you can forgive me or not, but I'm sorry. And I ask you to forgive me. And all 3 of them cried and hugged me and asked me to forgive them. I didn't even understand at that time, how the Bible talked about, going to those who you have aught against and asking their forgiveness. I didn't even know that. But the Holy Spirit had put that within me right away, that I needed to go to these people and ask them to forgive me and tell them I was sorry. And it was just an amazing thing for them, that first off, they were shocked. But secondly, that, they asked me to forgive them also. And so it was just such a powerful thing, that the Lord was changing me, right away. Just one thing after another was happening. It was just an amazing thing to be a part of.
And probably you nor those men will ever forget the expressions that you saw on their face, they saw on your face.
Oh no, not, you're right. Absolutely, yeah. It was just amazing thing to see, and I'm sure it was amazing for them.
That's just wonderful.
Yeah.
It just leaves you speechless.
Yeah.
So, what's your plans for the future?
Well, I've recently switched churches, and so it's a new time, and I'm getting to know the new pastor and the new congregation there, and he's already asked me to speak to the church. He's read the book, and he wants me to speak. I'll be speaking in December, and they're actually talking about there's some talk of making a movie on the book, so I'm excited about that. and just doing what I can to serve God, and going to and praying with people, and knowing God can do miracles. I've seen several healings since this happened, and so I know wherever I go, when I go and pray for people, I know that I take God with me, and God's able to heal them and deliver them and bring salvation unto them if they'll surrender. And so, yeah, I'm just thankful and excited to be a part of what God's doing.
And again, I know I keep saying that's wonderful, but it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful.
Yes, it is.
You're still living in see, I told you I couldn't remember how to say that word.
Ypsilanti, Michigan.
You're still living there.
Yes, sir.
And young Dave is down in Florida where it's warm and sunny.
Yep, he's down in Florida, and he's enjoying it there, and he's kind of gotten used to that warm weather, so he'll be coming home at Thanksgiving, and then he'll probably be coming home again at Christmas, and his blood's gotten a little thin, so this cold air is a little tough on him, but he still loves to come home.
TheFathersLoveBook.com.
Yes.
The Father's Love.
Yes.
Fantastic book, ladies and gentlemen. Not very big, but really powerful. And Dave, I only wish you the best, my friend. I always say this. I know our listeners have heard me say it. I don't know how many, countless times now, that I listen for a person's heartbeat. If I can hear a heartbeat, then I know that person is for real. And my friend, tonight I heard your heartbeat, and I know you're for real.
Thank you, George.
I just trust that everything you put your hand to, you're successful. And I know that you'll be a light. And I know that you'll lead people in the right direction. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to come on our show.
Well, thank you, George, and thank you for those encouraging words, and I wish the same things for you, my brother.
And we'll stay in touch.
Yes, I would like that.
Alrighty. Thank you, sir.
God bless you.
Give your family my regards.
I will. Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. And there we are, ladies and gentlemen. A fantastic story. Go to the website, thefatherslovebook.com. Thefatherslovebook.com. And there you can read about Dave Moore. There is a trailer there to the book. You can purchase the book. It's only, how many pages is it here? 106 pages, 105, something like that. About 106 pages. It's an easy read. But like I said before, once you pick it up, you won't get up until you're completely finished with it. It's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful read. So do yourself a favor. The Father's Love Book. The Father's Love Book. That's all one word. TheFathersLoveBook.com. And there you can read all about the Father's love. My, what a fantastic story. We have had some tremendous guests over the months, and we've got more coming. I think tomorrow night, Dr. Bob Christensen, if I can say the word right. Sometimes I get tongue-tied, you know that. Dr. Bob Christensen, Dr. Bob, will be with us. He's the man that had a court battle with the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration, for 12 long years. He wrote a book. He's going to tell us the whole story tomorrow night. And I know that you will enjoy it. Actually, David versus Goliath. And it's intriguing. And he will tell you how real it really is. So that's tomorrow night. Dr. Bob Christensen will be with us 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And we want to thank musicalley.com, because some of the music that we play every single night comes from musicalley.com. .com. Yeah, I'm trying to think of I want you to come over here, but it's .com. Okay, musicalley.com. I thank our friends for that. Again, I want to say thank you to Dave Moore from up there in Michigan. I can't say that word. I can't. I just can't say that word. It's what is it? West of Detroit. Regardless, up there in Michigan, Dave Moore, who wrote The Father's Love. And you can read all about it. You can order the book at thefatherslovebook.com. Thefatherslovebook.com. Get the book. I sit down this morning, and I opened it up, and I didn't get up until I was done. And there's only 106 pages there. It's an easy read, but it's one of those reads that'll keep you glued, not only to your seat, but to the book. So pick it up. Go get it. The Father's Love. And you can get it at thefatherslovebook.com. Oh, my, oh, my, oh, my. We are trying something new tonight. We're trying some different equipment. And I have no idea how we're sounding other than what I hear through the headphones. We're just using some different stuff. And so I'm not going to know how it sounds until we come out the other end, and I sit down and I listen to the replay. But if you're listening and it's sounding all right, please come into the chat room and just say, "Hey Espenlaub, it's okay." If it's not, just say, "Hey Espenlaub, it's not working out so good." You know what I mean? But anyhow, one way or another, somebody come into the chat room and tell me if it's all right or if it isn't all right. I sure hope it's all right. It sounds good from where I'm at, coming from the board into the console, out the headphones, and so on and so forth. It sounds good here, but I'm just wondering how it is out there. You know, down the street, around the corner, across the nation, and around the world, because we have listeners everywhere. I do want to say that the wind has died down. In fact, it's become right quiet around here. It's still misty, still some clouds hanging around. It got chillier, and we were very fortunate. A lot of debris laying around, but all in all, I was completely surprised. The lights stayed on, and the internet service stayed up. So we didn't go dark, as many of our friends did in other areas. My heart goes out to you in Ocean City, Rehoboth, Dewey Beach, and up along the coast. My friends in New Jersey and New York. Excuse me. My heart goes out to you. If we can certainly do anything, please email me at George C at Comcast.net. Oh, that's been lob your case. George C.E. at Comcast.net. Email me. If we can do anything for you, or just email me at GeorgeCE at Comcast.net and let me know how you're doing. To our friends, excuse me, to our friends way over there in Europe, we want to say a great big hello. I thank you for your concern. All day yesterday and today, I was receiving instant messages and notes from people far and wide asking us if we were okay, if we weathered the storm. I thank you for all of your concern. I thank you for your prayers. And I hope that this soon gets over with and we can get back on our feet. And the men and women that lost so much, they can be restored and recovered, and we can go on with some kind of normalcy, whatever that is. Well, I hope this stuff is working. I really do. So if it's not, would you come into the chat room and tell me it isn't? Or if it is, come in the chat room and tell me it is.
It feels heavy, something wrong. Gonna go crazy, gonna break some law. Drifting in the moonlight, got nothing to lose. Never met a woman happy as you. Slept shadows in the dark, all through the night. You left your mark. No reflections in the mirror, you're a total surprise. Can't stop the bleeding, never satisfied. Rolling downtown in the black sedan. No questions, I'm a wanted man. Look me in the eye, you know it's true. Never met a woman happy as you. Slept in the window, shadows in the dark, all through the night. You left your mark, no reflections in the mirror, you're a total surprise. Can't stop the bleeding, never satisfied. Here we go. Found this bended knee. No matter what I do, you're so hard to please. You wrecked my life, I was such a fool. Well, I never met a woman nasty as you. Slept in the window, shadows in the dark, all through the night. You left your mark. No reflections in the mirror, you're a total surprise. Can't stop the bleeding, never satisfied. Slept in the window, shadows in the dark, all through the night. You left your mark. No reflections in the mirror, you're a total surprise. Can't stop the bleeding, never satisfied. Can't stop the bleeding, never satisfied. Can't stop the bleeding, never satisfied. Never satisfied. Never satisfied.
Can't stop the bleeding. I like that kind of music. Can't Stop the Bleeding by the Bottle Cap Rockets. Wow. And again, I want to say thank you. Thank you to musicalley.com, our friends that supply much of the music that we play here on the George Espinlove Show. And we want to thank you for tuning in. It's been some hectic. It's been some hectic. It's been a hectic day. It's been several hectic days. I'll get it out. Maybe I need to find a new word. But anyhow, it has been it's been a mess for the last several days. But we haven't missed no shows. We haven't been able to post on our radio show page, the news page, but and today we wasn't able to post on the news page, nor did we get up anything up on Facebook. I don't think we did. No, we didn't. We put up the aftermath of last night's show with Jack Duffy, and we talked about the JFK assassination, which is intriguing. It's always intriguing to me. But we wasn't able to get anything up today because of everything that was going on with the aftermath of the storm. But we're going to get back to some kind of normalcy here, and we'll start to get things up. So just bear with us. I thank all of you that have been tuning in live. For you that can't tune in live, but you come in later and you listen to the show either later at night or the next day or the next several days, they're all archived. They're all archived, so you can go and listen to any one of them. Just pick out one, or just do one, some, or all of them. It doesn't matter, and you can spend several hours listening to them. And I want to thank you for that, and I want to ask you to continue to support us. We want to make our show better. We want to make it even more exciting. And if it wasn't for you, there would be no need to do any of this. But it's because of you, the listeners. And yes, when I say down the street, around the corner, across the nation, and around the world, I mean that. I mean that. We have listeners down the street. We have listeners around the corner. We have listeners across America, and we have listeners around the world. And I thank each and every one of you. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor. Just stand and say, friends, Romans, countrymen, and anyone else that'll listen to me. Tune in every night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, to the George Espinlove Show on the Spreaker Network. Call them, email them. We have more ways of contacting each other than you can shake a stick at anymore. I just think this modern day technology is something awesome.
18 wheels hauling out a heavy load. I got 150 miles of open road. I'm passing freeway signs and my thoughts get rearranged. I think about the way our lives have gone and changed. Now there's an internet fist, they're talking high-speed chat. Think the world's gone crazy, then I remember that. Boys still say that I love you. Girls still say I love you too. Weekend bands still rocking bars, with cowboys picking on steel guitars. And baby, through the years, a pair of bells ring true. I still dig rock and roll, and I dig you. Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm back on the road, hauling 1,000 boxes, a double-dipping pile of mold. Driving the time away, and my thoughts get disarranged. I think about the way our lives have gone and changed. Now it's a hurry up here, no time to chew the fat. Think the world's gone crazy, then I remember that. Boys still say that I love you. Girls still say I love you too. Weekend bands still rocking bars, with cowboys picking on steel guitars. And baby, through the years, not one thing but there's two. I still dig rock and roll, and I dig you. Now ticking clocks won't sweep it away, so turn them radios louder all across the USA. Let's play, come on. you.
77 South. I dig you. Yes, it is. You know, everybody's starting to feel a little bit better. I do want to give you a mum update if you are a first-time listener or you haven't heard anything about mum. Mum is wife Nancy. She goes by a variety of names around here. We call her Gertrude Duflicky. We call her Mum. We call her wife Nancy. The kids call her Mom. The grandkids call her Mum. And, you know, she had the bout with cancer that she's been battling since we found out way back in January. And I want you to know that she is just doing super. Doing super. And we've got good reports. She's regaining her strength. She's getting back to her normal self. She slaps me around. She punches me. And she's starting, you know, before she got sick, she would beat me 3 times a day, whether I needed it or not. If I didn't need it, she just beat me anyhow to keep me in line. You know what I'm saying? Well, we're up to 2 beatings a day. 2 beatings a day. And man, I look forward to them. And I can't wait. I can't wait until that 3rd beating comes around. I think we're not too many days away from that 3rd beating, because when we get to that 3rd beating, I'll know that she is back up and she is rolling. I mean, that's just the way that she rolls. You know what I'm saying? So I got 2 beatings today, and 2 beatings for the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 days. So soon I'll be up to the 3 beatings a day again, and I'll know that she is back in form. And I'm telling you, her hands are just as fast now as they were in December of last year, before we found out that she had that bout with cancer. She has got some fast hands, and she will punch you out in a heartbeat. That's my girl.
I don't wanna go surfing, don't wanna leave home. My baby won't call me, she says she's out on her own. Make the world
Charlie,
go
he'll play anything. You know what I'm saying?
Make it go, make it go. Ain't gonna leave my room for as long as it takes till I find a cure for my poor little heartbreak. Make the world go away. Make it go, make it go. I'm stuck in a fog of impending doom. I'm lying in my bed with nothing to do. I got the June, oh baby, June blue. I got the June, oh baby, June blue, June blue. They just remind me of all the things we did before. Make the world go away. Make it go, make it go. I'm stuck in a fog of impending doom. I'm just lying in my bed, I got nothing to do. I got the June, oh baby, June blue. I got the June, oh baby, June blue. I got the June, oh baby, June blue. I got the June, oh baby, June blue, June blue.
Thank you. June Gloom. June Gloom. That's the name of that song. June Gloom. And again, we want to thank our friends at musicalley.com. Yeah, really. Charlie? Stop it. Charlie? No, I know. Okay. But anyway, stop it. Stop it, Charlie.
I fall down. Whenever you come around, I fall down. Whenever I hear the sound of your voice, when you come calling for me. I thought I was made of steel, about 100 feet tall. My feet like giant slabs of beef, my bunions on they fall. Well, I never swayed in the breeze, I always walk the line. Whenever I come upon you, this happens every time I fall down. Whenever you come around, I fall down. Whenever I hear the sound of your voice, when you come calling for me. I fall down. Whenever you come around, I fall down. Whenever I hear the sound of your voice, when you come calling for me. Oh, I can't speak to save my life, the words won't come to me. Well, I'm knee-high to a grasshopper and you're all I can see. Well, I'm just bits of potato chips at the bottom of the sack. Well, there ain't no use in coming out, cause whenever you come back, I fall down. Whenever you come around, I fall down. Whenever I hear the sound of your voice, when you come calling for me. I fall down. Whenever you come around, I fall down. Whenever I hear the sound of your voice, when you come calling for me. I walk around with worn-out shoes and dusty clothes, and all the friends I've ever known have gone away. I roam around the streets throughout this town, always my home. Nowadays I see no reason I should stay. There was a man who talked about a southbound train. He said it'd take me far away from here. So now I'm gone, I'll try to find another place to call my home. Friends are plenty and the skies are always clear. There ain't no doctors on the train car to tell you you can't smoke. Ain't no women throwing fits along the way. Ain't no policemen at the pitch cams to throw you in the poke. There ain't no suffering and the skies are never gray. I'm gonna ride this train on further down the line. It keeps us stopping, but I'll ride it to the end. I'm going to a land where all the rivers flow with wine. Smell of ham and beans is blowing in the wind. There ain't no doctors on the train car to tell you you can't smoke. Ain't no women throwing fits along the way. Ain't no policeman in the pitch cams to throw you in the poke. There ain't no suffering and the skies are never gray. There ain't no suffering and the skies are never gray.
Oh, you never know what Charlie's going to play. Charlie's over there at the board. You know, this new gizmo that I'm sitting here using, it's got some other things to push, but I'm half afraid to push them. And, you know, we are Skype available now. Is that the word? No, we are Skype compatible. Anyways, we have Skype now tuned into the show so you can call in from anywhere in the world. Now, when we was using our other equipment up until last night, and this is just an experiment, we were doing Skype. In fact, we only did it once. I think it was Thursday night, and we tested it out live on the air, and we got a call from Nottingham, England. Everything worked fine. And I was going to go Skype tonight after our guest was here, but I thought, well, let me not push my luck. We're using this new fandangled gizmo, so I don't want to do two fairly new things at the same time. I still don't know how this is going to sound. I don't know how it's sounding on your end. But if we're getting ready to leave here pretty soon, but no one has come into the chat room and told me that it isn't working or it isn't sounding all right. I hope it is. I'll find out after this radio show's over and I hit the playback a little bit later on and listen to portions of it myself. But we do have Skype. If you want to Skype me, it's george.espenlaub. George.espenlaub. That is ESPENLAUB. George.espenlaub. ESPENLAUB. Oh, wow. My goodness gracious, Aunt Sally. You know, I'm starting to feel better as the moments, even while I'm speaking, I'm starting to feel better. We haven't missed no shows because of the weather, thank goodness. And again, I want to say our prayers and our concerns are with those that are closer to the coast, up the coast, inland. And if you need us, email me at georgece at comcast.net, georgece@comcast.net, or just take the time and drop me a little note, georgece@comcast.net. I'll be delighted, and I promise you that I will answer you personally. We've got a lot of good things coming, a lot of good things. We're going to make the show bigger, better, and we're going to do it because you have made it possible. You, our listeners, I thank you for your fine support and getting behind us and holding us up and your kind words and all the nice things that you've said and all the nice things that you're doing for us. Tomorrow night, Dr. Bob Christensen, man who fought with the FDA for 12 years, court battle, 12 years. You talk about a real Goliath, David and Goliath story. This is it, and he will be here tomorrow night to tell us himself of that 12-year battle, what it did to him, what it meant to others, and what it will mean to still others if they have to go through the same thing that he did. And he wrote a book about it. He'll tell you about it tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, right here on Spreaker.com. Make sure you listen to my friends, all through Spreaker. My goodness, there's thousands of them. Listen to my friend over there in Northern Ireland, my friend Harry. Harry, who writes this stuff anyhow? Listen to my friend, the Swinging 60s. Listen to Graham Forster, the Godiva radio show. I'm going to miss somebody. I better stop right now because I'm going to make somebody mad. I need to write them down so I can get them all. But anyhow, tune in to Spreaker.com. You can find thousands of top-notch, top-shelf, top-quality radio shows. And like I always said, all the talent isn't in the terrestrial radio stations anymore. It is far and wide. It could be right next door to you, down the street and around the corner. Because modern-day technology has made it all possible. Internet radio is growing in leaps and bounds. And you can do it. All you really need is a computer, an internet connection, and a microphone, and you're good to go. You can design and produce your own show. Some of us have had previous experience in radio. Some never have. But regardless, it doesn't make any difference. You can come on the air if you have a computer, an internet service, and a microphone. Wow. You can do it too. It's tremendous. It's a lot of fun. We're going to have to get out of here, ladies and gentlemen. But wherever you're at, no matter what you're going through, might be the darkest storm, it could be the deepest valley. We want you to know there's a whole lot of love coming to you from the Funny Farm. Until tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, right here on Spreaker.com. Tune into the George Espinlove Show live from the Funny Farm. Again, our thanks to Dave Moore, who wrote the book, The Father's Love. Go to the website, thefatherslovebook.com. Pick up the book, The Father's Love. Inspirational. You'll be glued to it. Wherever you're at. If it's nighttime, have a good night. If it's tomorrow already, have a good day. But until tomorrow night, same time, same station, this is George Espinlove saying good night and God bless you.